Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to Entertaining Thoughts. My name is John Wydogen. My website is naturalfreedomleague.com, and this is episode 2. The California recall is a statist trap. Unregister to vote. Electronic voting machines, a look back at the 1968 U.S. presidential election. The 1968 presidential election had major voter irregularities in Pennsylvania. Votes for Richard Dick Gregory, an American civil rights activist and former comedian, were at the center of the computer voter irregularity. During the 1968 election night, computers used by the News Election Service, NES, reported that Dick Gregory, the fourth party candidate, was polling 9 million votes in Pennsylvania. And they attached some articles which talked about this issue. So even back in 1968, there was already voting irregularities with voter election night computers. So this is nothing new. Elections have been rigged since before I was born. People will say that if you don't vote, you have no right to complain. And I always thought that that was nonsense because what if you have come to discover and understand that voting and elections are rigged? So why would you continue to participate in those if you understand the system to be corrupted and rigged? You should have every right to stop participating in those, and you do have every right to speak on that issue, speak on the state of the world, regardless of whether you cast a vote in a rigged system. The last time that I fell into the statist trap of thinking that voting worked would be, well, I would say I casted a vote in 2016, but it was for a third party. It wasn't for one of the two major candidates, and I voted for the person that most closely aligned with my ideals. But after that, I got into the understanding of natural law and where our rights truly come from and objective morality, and I understand that participating in a rigged, corrupt system is only perpetuating the problem. So now I am planning on unregistering to vote, which can be done, and which I think is a positive step towards detaching from this corrupt system and building something better and different. When did I first know that the system was rigged and that your vote doesn't really matter to anybody else other than the ruling class, the predator class? And I'd have to say it was the year 2000. I was attending college in California, Humboldt State University, and I remember watching the election, and at that time, a Bay Area liberal, born and raised, open-minded, and willing to think outside the box, but still within the box very much, within the system, and thinking that Clinton had done a good job, there was a surplus, the 90s were all right, from my perspective, growing up through high school and into junior college and college. And I remember watching the election, and they said that Florida was won by Al Gore. And I remember them going to a shot of the Bush family. It was George W. Bush, his parents, and they were sitting in a room, and they were asked about Florida, which George Bush's brother was the governor of, had gone to Al Gore. And George W. Bush said, "I still think it's too early to call this." Now, mind you, at this time, prior to this, I don't believe in any election they had ever reversed any calling like that, where the media called it for one candidate. I believe this was a first. So this guy, George W. Bush, basically predicted that we shouldn't trust the voting results that had come in. I remember calling my father at that moment and saying, "Are you watching this? Are you watching? They're rigging it like while we're watching it." And at that time, I was already aware of the corrupt reality that was the Bush family. That was one thing I had already delved into. So anyway, I remember just being aware of that. And, you look at the history of that. I mean, that was very contested, and, people were very upset about it, that, there was some type of wrongdoing going on there, some type of manipulation of the system. And of course, we just roll on and we continue on to the next election, on to the next thing. And that's the way that we are controlled. I mean, they constantly give us new things to be distracted with, new things to give us hope. And so I think that the last time I actually did have hope was when I was still a bit naive, and I saw Obama become president, and I thought that it was somewhat of a authentic movement and that he was kind of came out of nowhere. But I learned very quickly after that he's just as well connected, and he's from the bloodline. He was selected as well. Presidents are selected, not elected. So seeing that Obama never did anything to undo anything that Bush administration did, never did anything to look into the crimes of the Bush administration, just went along with the system, kept things the way they are. Then going up to 2016, when Trump won, I wasn't surprised, and I didn't think it was amazing, like he had somehow been an underdog and he won. My thought was, I was aware enough at that time to know if he won, that was who the predator class wanted in office, that he was their guy. And I was aware of that throughout his whole presidency. And so now, after this final election that happened, where they made it blatantly obvious that it was rigged, but then act like, the mainstream media act like there's no way it was rigged. And so all of these conservative-minded people who have now gone through this, now they have been pulled into this recall idea. And they think that this recall happened authentically and grassroots, and that the people in power wouldn't have stopped it and wouldn't have had the ability to stop it if they wanted to. I would just like to totally disagree with those people and let you know that if a recall is happening, it's because the ruling class wants a recall to happen. I mean, at the very least, this could just be a way to catapult Gavin Newsom, show him as a, comeback kid who dealt with all the conspiracy theorists and QAnons and anti-vaxxers and flat earthers who recalled him and who somehow were successful with a recall. I'm not putting any of the people down who participated in it. I'm just saying that if they didn't want it to happen, they would have prevented it from happening. This is a distraction. It's going to be a circus. I recommend everybody go to your county website, find the form to unregister to vote, and take a step towards detachment activism, detaching from the system, exiting and building, as Derek Brose likes to say. We need to take these steps. We need to stop falling into these traps, these statist traps, like the California recall effort. It is a statist trap. You have been warned. All right, everybody. Thanks for entertaining this thought with me. And I will catch you next time. And always remember, put it in the light.